Hello there. Welcome to this demo of LEOS. In the next few minutes, I will show you what are the new features that are shipping with LEOS 5.1.0 that is just around the corner. Starting off with the new landing page. So we have revised the entry page of LEOS into a more modern look and more user-targeted page. Recalling on what we have nowadays, when you access LEOS, you meet the repository browser, which shows you a full hard list of all the proposals to which you have access to. But now, with LEOS 5.1.0, you enter on this page where you can still create a proposal, just like on the repository browser. So you click on it, you have the wizard to choose the template that you wish to base your proposal upon. If you have support role, you can upload an existing file that you have on your file system to create a proposal based on that. So all of this is already present in the repository browser, but you have two new big important sections down below. On the left, you have my latest activity, meaning the proposals that were edited by myself, Leslie. And this because when coming back to LEOS, there is a high chance that I intend to carry on working on one of those proposals. So this makes it easier to identify those proposals. And important to mention that this list is updated automatically without any action from my part. So if I want to take control of this and have a quick access to any specific proposal, because imagine that I touched on several proposals and this list can get very long, I have the possibility to mark a proposal as a favorite. On how I do that, I will show you later on this presentation. But after I mark a proposal as a favorite, it will be presented on my favorites list. So this gives me a direct access to the proposals that I want to work on. Besides this, on this new page, we have a new feature that I want to show you, which is the new notification system. So you have this little bell with already a 1, meaning that I have a new notification on the top right corner of the page. And this is a system that is horizontal to the full application, meaning that all the users will have access to these notifications. And what are the intent of these notifications? This is a system that allows us to configure warnings to the user or news. So to inform users about an upcoming release, to inform the users about a maintenance period, etc. Whatever we want to put here in order to notify or raise awareness of the users to that information. And these notifications are configured through a JSON file that is uploaded to the database, and they can also be time framed. So I can specify from when to when this notification is to be presented. So I don't have the need to manually go there and remove the notification if I wish for it to not be shown anymore. None of that. I just upload a notification today to be showcased next week, just for a day, and the system will show it during that period without me needing to go there and remove it manually. Now, when you open a proposal, you are taken to the proposal view screen. We have revamped this page to give it a more modern twist to it, but most of all to make it a more organized page. Because in contrary to the previous version of LEOS, where everything is cluttered into a single page, we now have the information compartmentalized by logical sections. And we achieve this by introducing the tabulations on top. So, starting with the far most right one, we have the details, where we have all the metadata associated with this proposal, where we can, just as before, act upon some of these. For example, the EEA relevance, we can set it. Next, we have the collaborators management with a different caveat and with a new feature introduced here, which is the possibility now to have the introduction of users in quantity. This means that instead of having to add users one by one, I can select the quantity of users that I wish to have in one single shot, for example, by setting up the quantity up top. I introduce the name. So just like before, I select the user that I want. So I will insert Fernando Nuga, Jean-Christophe Villain. I can choose right away what are the roles that they are going to take on this proposal. So I can make, for example, Fernando Nuga as a contributor and Jean-Christophe Villain as a reviewer. And with one single action, I had those two users with those two different roles on this proposal. Up next, we have the milestones, which is just like before the milestone explorer. We can click on add to select the milestone that we wish to create. We click on create and the list gets populated with the leg file. And last but surely not least, because this is one of the most relevant pages, is the drafts, where we have all the documents that are comprised in this proposal. So we have the cover page, the explanatory memorandum, whichever documents are configured in this proposal template, they are shown here. Another point that I want to draw your attention to, and that I made a reference before when I showed you the new homepage, is the possibility to mark this proposal as a favorite. To do this, I simply click on this bookmark table up top, and from this point onward, this page will appear on my home page screen on my favorites listing. Now, talking about the document view, when you open this page, the first thing that pops to our eyes is the presence of this new menu up top, this new floating menu. This completely replaces the hamburger menu that we had here with a simple list of actions. And all of these actions are now spanned across this entire horizontal menu up top, which is in line with the modern UI design. So that you see in several other applications. By doing so, by expanding the actions like so, we enhance the usability because it makes it easier to access each of the features because they have a lot of, more description to them. And besides that, they are contextualized with these separators. But besides the existing features that we had, we also introduced some new ones. First of all, I can draw your attention is there now the possibility to do a zoom in and zoom out on the working page. So this allows you to adapt the screen or the page to your working screen. The same goes for the user guidance. So this we already had it, but another feature that I'm really excited to talk to you about is the track changes. So let's jump right onto it. Up until now, if a user wished to know when a change was introduced on their documents, the only possible way to do it would be to open the versions pane, cycle through all the existing versions, and using the comparison tool, compare versions by versions until it narrows down and identifies a timestamp when this change was in fact introduced. It's very easy to understand how time-consuming this test can be, especially as the time goes by and the document progresses and more versions are added up to this versions list. Because, may I remind you that every single save in edit results in the creation of a new technical version. So this versions list can grow very rapidly and making this task more and more difficult. In order to make the life easier for the drafter, we have introduced the track changes in LEOS. In order to use it, it's just a matter of enabling the feature here on top. And from this point onward, if I open an element for edition, every change that I will do here will be tracked. So, for example, if I delete this text and I insert some new text as well, you will see that both the deletion as well as the insertion are now tracked. And if I over this change, I only have my name. I don't have a timestamp yet because the changes were not saved yet. But as soon as I click on save and close, and if I hover it again, you will see that I have my name and the timestamp when this change were in fact created. You will see that also the deletion and the insertion have the same color instead of having red for deletion and green for insertion. And this is done on purpose because every change done by myself will have exactly the same color no matter what document I'm acting upon. This means what? This means that If I close the legal act now and I go to any other document of this proposal, may that be an annex, explanatory memorandum, financial statement, doesn't matter. And if I do changes there in track changes, all of those changes will have the same color that I see here. And this makes it very easy to identify who did those changes. For example, if I scroll down and I come here to Article 6, which I prepared earlier on for this demo, you'll see that we have two shades of blue, a darker one and a lighter one. If I hover on the darker one, you see that it was Felipe who did it. So I don't need to hover over this deletion to know that it was Felipe that did them because the color is the same. I only need to hover it if I wish to know when this change was introduced. And the same is true for the changes done by Refti. I know that it was him also that introduced point he just by hovering of this deletion. So this makes it very easy to understand who did what. If I open now Article 6 for edition, and if I hover the change done by Felipe, so this insertion of this new point, you'll see that the whole point is highlighted. But if I do change here, because we support track changes, hover track changes, and I insert some new text, you'll see that the new text that I introduced has my color, and the block of track changes, of the insertion of track changes by Felipe, was now split into three blocks. So let me just save and close it to make it easier to demo it to you. And you'll see if I hover it, I keep the same timestamp that I had before for the changes of Philippe, and I have a new one done by myself. This means now that if I accept this change, I will be acting only on the first change done by Felipe, and I will need to accept the second one. You can easily already see that if I have changes over changes over changes, accepting one by one can be a very time-consuming task. For this reason, if I wish to accept several changes at once, I can do so as well. So, for example, let me simulate another scenario here on top. You will see that we have a deletion in the insertion suggested by me, and another one by Hefty. If I make a selection of text that contains all the changes that I wish to accept, and if I right click on it, and if I accept this change, you'll see that the text that I added is now here, and the deletions that were suggested have been removed. So the track changes have been processed all at once. No need to go one by one. Now, as you can see that these changes over changes over changes can grow very rapidly, and it can become a little bit hard to see how the document looks like if all of these changes would be processed. In order to ease up on this as well, we have the possibility to click here on See Track Changes. So if we disable the See Track Changes, you will see a simulation of the document as if all the track changes that exist on it would be processed. Word of warning here, this does not mean that they are indeed accepted, it's just a matter of simulation. So if I click on See Track Changes again, all of the changes that were there are now back. Also, if I choose not to see the track changes, this does not mean that the changes are not being tracked anymore. So for example, if I disable the See Track Changes and I edit Article 5 and I introduced a new point, and I save and close, at first glance, it seems that this change is not tracked, but as soon as I click on See Track Changes, you'll see that the change has in fact been tracked because the feature itself is enabled. If I wish to stop using track changes, I need to click on Enable Track Changes to disable it. And you have already seen as well, by inserting this new point, that the subsequent points renumbering has occurred. This means that we also support changes not only limited to textual changes, but also over structural changes. So, and you just saw it here, by inserting a new point, it causes all the other ones to be renumbered with the same color by myself, because this was a consequence of my action. and I can act upon these track changes individually as well. Another point that I wish to show you is the possibility to see changes done by other collaborators immediately. Recalling what we have on the current version of LEOS, if we have two collaborators co-editing at the same time, as soon as one changes the document, the other one receives a notification saying that their document is out of date and that they need to refresh in order to have the latest version visible. This is no longer true with LEOS 5.1.0. You have the changes shown to you automatically. For that, I have opened a new different instance of LEOS with the same document on a different browser and different window to simulate this. And I will open this article 5 for edition there. And you can see that I have this silhouette here that saying that myself are editing this elsewhere. And if on that different instance I insert 2 new points, for example, on article 5, as soon as I save and close those changes, and which I will do now, watch what happened on article 5. I have 2 new points pop up into my screen right away without the need for me to do a manual refresh over the document. So you can see how helpful this can be for the user. This does not mean, for example, that if collisions appear, that they are not handled. Because just as before, if two users are working at the same element at the same time, you get the warning message saying that this will result in a conflict, and this will reflect on the last save to be persisted. The user interface of the hypothesis sidebar panel has also been targeted for changes on this LEOS 5.1.0. In terms of core functionality, it comprises the same as we had before, but the user interface has been completely revamped. Without getting too technical, on this version, we completely decommissioned the AngularJS, which was a very old version of the user interface, and we replaced it with a new developed tailored solution in Angular. So Hypothesis is now up to date with user interface standards. We took this opportunity also to change a bit and improve a bit on the functionality. So instead of having these actions on hover where we had the addition, the trash bin, etc., that was not immediate to a person that was not acquainted with LEOS yet, all these actions are now compiled under this top menu where we can delete, edit, reply, forward. So all the features that we had before, we can do them. In terms of identification of what type of annotation we have, we will have for the suggestions the accept button that was left outside of this menu because it makes it easier for the user to do this action. But as I was saying, to identify between a suggestion and a comment or a highlight, we have this little icon because now the cards all have the same color. In terms of selection, we can, as before, select the annotations. The guidelines will also turn blue to notify or to give feedback that this annotation is selected. We also have the possibility to select all and do actions over all of the selected annotations. Again, just like before. And we continue to have the advanced filtering on top. So we can filter annotations by type, by comments, suggestions, by annotations with feedback, and then we have a subtype for each action, or we can do the full text search. One thing that is introduced on this new version, though, is the presence of which version is deployed on this instance server. So we have here 5.1.1. I mean, it's a patch that we have released on top of 5.1.0 already. For the buttons on the left, it's exactly the same. So we have the toggle of the highlights, toggle of the anchor points on the main document. The disability of the actions pop up when we select text, etc. So in terms of annotations, these were the new introductions done on this version. With LEOS 5.1.0, you can also expect a considerable improvement on the performance, especially targeted on opening and saving and closing elements for edition. If you recall on the current version of LEOS, especially when you start to have a very big document, opening an element for edition can take some time, and it can take even more time to save the changes. But now, with 5.1.0, if I click on an element, which I'm going to do now, it's immediate. So the CK editor is opened right away. And another important point is that the cursor, the writing cursor, is placed exactly where I clicked. So I clicked at the end of point B, and if I start to input new text, this new text will be exactly there. This seems like a very small thing, but imagine that you have a very long article. Before, when you opened the CK editor, the cursor was always placed at the bottom, and you would have to scroll up to identify where you really want to start typing. Now, this is no longer an issue. We click it, it opens, and that's it. Now, if we save and close, you remember that this could take some time, but now, again, it's immediate. You already have the changes persisted. Immediately you can jump to another element. And this is also true if you jump between elements. For example, if I open article 2, clicking right after following, I input some text. And if I, from here, click on point E of article 1, you'll see that it's almost immediate. Changes are persisted for article 2, and I'm ready to start typing on point E of article 1. So even though this seems a very small point, this has a huge impact on the day-to-day life of any drafter. This completes the demo. I hope you liked it, and that this has opened your curiosity towards wanting to experience all the new and exciting features that I presented you here today. I hope to see you on our future webinars, and I remember too that you can always reach out to us on code.europa.eu/leos, where you can find not only the code base for LEOS itself, but also all the relevant information and documentation that you may need. See you soon!